Hey everyone, and welcome back to Leaders on Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Manal Bernoussi, and I'm thrilled to dive into today's conversation because I know that listening to this episode is going to shift your perspective from sick care to healthcare and empower you to become the CEO of your well-being. So if you're someone who's interested in enhancing your energy and you want to learn how to manage your stress effectively, this conversation is for you. If you're interested in learning about the early warning signs of disease and you want to be able to manage them effectively, this episode is for you. And if, like me, you're not a health professional and you feel there is so much information out there, so much to digest, but you do care about taking the right steps toward living a healthy life, then stick around. This episode is definitely for you. Today, I'm welcoming Dr. Fady Hannah-Shmouni, a professor and endocrinologist, geneticist at the University of British Columbia. He is a physician, investor, specializing in endocrinology, hypertension, genomics, precision health, and longevity medicine. He is passionate about empowering consumers with cutting-edge technologies in precision medicine. He has founded Healthspan Digital, a longevity tech company based in Abu Dhabi, dedicated to advancing healthspan services through state-of-the-art artificial intelligence and smart home technologies. His aim is to provide personalized and proactive healthcare solutions, contributing to the remarkable advancement of healthcare and the well-being of individuals worldwide. What an amazing life purpose. Dr. Fady, such an honor having you on the show. Welcome to Leaders on Purpose podcast.
It's my honor, and I really appreciate your time and the opportunity to talk about a very important topic, which is longevity.
Absolutely. It's such a joy to have you on. I've been diving into your work, and there is so much that has sparked my curiosity. Let us maybe start with the basics to help our audience and kind of understand what we're talking about. So precision health, longevity medicine, health span. Could you define these terms for us and also share a bit about your journey? What led you to focus on these particular topics?
So I think it's important to establish a few definitions so we understand what really is the goal of living a longer, healthier life. So the definition of lifespan is the number of years that we live on Earth, the number of years that we breathe oxygen, from the moment we're born to the moment we die. The meaning of longevity is this pursuit for longer years of life. This term is now being used left and right to sort of help commercialize some products and services, including supplements, with a lot of fake claims, because it's very hard to really understand the multitude of factors needed to live a long, healthy life. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of studies to determine what really works for an average individual to live to, say, 200 years. We know that there are animals, mammals across different categories that live hundreds of years, including whales and sharks and turtles. So the big question and debate for humans is, can we live a very long time? And that refers to longevity. But the most important term is living a long, healthy life, not a longer life filled with disability. And this term is referred to as health span, which is the number of years lived in good health, healthy years. And what we're seeing today, unfortunately, is a reduction in the number of years lived in good health, so a reduction in the number of years lived in health span, and an increase in the number of years lived in poor span, which is that last decade of someone's life living with chronic disease, cancer, disability, loneliness, away from family, lack of purpose, and isolation in long-term care facilities. So I hope that sort of establishes the premise of our conversation, and more importantly, the most important, terminology, which is health span.
Yeah, health span, which is living a healthier, a longer healthy life versus living longer. So the objective, the aim is not to live longer, is really to live healthier. And for that, being proactive about our health, right?
Absolutely. I think all of us are in agreement that independent of where we are in our lifespan, whether we're in the teenage years, early adulthood, or later on as sort of senior citizens, we don't want to be impacted negatively by disease and disability. And so one of the most important objectives, throughout our lifespan is to live a healthy life. And that primarily starts with healthy choices.
Yeah.
So better sleep, better diet, building muscle, finding, a sense of purpose in the community, being around loved ones. And so sticking to those fundamental basics that evolutionary had a lot of advantages to sort of help us thrive as humans still stands true today. And I think that should be really the focus of longevity, is how can I empower myself, my community, on a population level, to give the individual the necessary raw material needed to live a longer, healthier life away from disability and chronic disease.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's truly fascinating when we think about it, that our default behavior is really to go see a doctor when we feel ill, right? Yet we could have much greater impact on our health by focusing on maintaining our well-being and getting the support we need before sickness kicks in. But most of us were like, why should I go see a doctor, or why should I go get any support if I feel that everything is okay, or if I feel that nothing is wrong, right?
Yeah, so chronic disease does not happen overnight. It takes decades for disease to develop, and it typically follows the trajectory from a wellness state, which is our healthy state, to an abnormal disease state. And that transition sometimes takes decades. We know that an individual, once they're diagnosed with diabetes, they've had it for over 10 years. We know that we start developing calcification of our heart vessels at the age of 12, and that sort of progresses depending on
Wow.
someone's factors like smoking, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes. And so individuals with higher risk factors will develop chronic disease quicker and potentially with more severity. But we're all on that trajectory. We're all going to die. Most of us are going to develop chronic diseases. And so the big question is, what can we do if we know that this is sort of in our lifespan, that this is a transition phase and a journey from a wellness state to a disease state? What can we do as individuals to understand where we are on that journey, and then to mitigate the risk of developing, disease down the road with intervention? And this is still an exciting area of research. It's an area of medicine called phenomic medicine, which is the study of medicine that tries to define the trajectory of chronic disease from wellness state to a disease state, and to try to utilize state-of-the-art technology and biomarkers to really tell you and help you predict where you are on that journey. And so if you translate that to the average consumer today, independent of how expensive they want to dig deeper into that journey, I think what we want to really highlight is the importance of proactive, preemptive screening over sick care models that wait until you develop disease, down the road. And you can imagine the value of knowing earlier, because it may help reverse the course of chronic disease down the road, which then translates to healthy years and hopefully healthy longer years, so longer lifespan and longevity.
Yeah. And I'd love to dig into that a little bit. So Dr. Fady, the Leaders on Purpose community includes, C-level executives, corporate leaders, entrepreneurs who are lifelong learners and committed to reaching their true potential in all areas of life. And since COVID, many of us have shifted to remote work, and we're spending significantly more time behind screens and often sitting for long periods. What are the biggest health challenges facing this type of population? And are there any studies that specifically focus on these issues within the African context?
Yes, so there are a lot of studies that were published during and post-COVID era, highlighting the new challenges that we're seeing today, not only for remote work, but the overall chronic issues that we are dealing with as a result of the pandemic, lockdowns, vaccines, and new behaviors, including mental health conditions being on the rise, substance use disorders having being all-time high, and so on. So I think the biggest challenge today faced across all C-level executives is definitely stress. Mm-hmm. And we know that stress, whether it's work-related or relationship-related, or company performance-related, has a major negative impact on someone's overall well-being. And it will help accelerate someone's development of chronic disease. So if you think about it as sort of a train journey from wellness to disease state, it helps add more fuel to the train, and that train will sort of move much quicker towards developing chronic disease, including cardiovascular disease, diabetes, high blood pressure. And stress is a silent killer, just like high blood pressure. The hormonal changes that occur during stress from external influences can lead to very elevated cortisol, and elevated cortisol and other markers can lead to rapid evolution and development of physical related signs and symptoms, including weight gain. There's an interesting new concept called cortisol face, mm-hmm. where your face becomes rounder, puffier because of the increased cortisol as a result of stress. And so that negative physical appearance will have an impact on how you feel acutely, and then more importantly, the chronic development or the risk factors that will lead to chronic development of chronic diseases, including diabetes and heart disease. And so it's a vicious cycle between stress, mm-hmm. chronic disease development that then has a negative impact on the individual, their performance, their relationships, development of acute conditions like infections that will, take them away from their major responsibilities. It may put them into a path of substance use disorders like alcohol and drugs that may sort of further accelerate that train ride into a disease state, and so on. So, from the context of wellness and disease evolution, I would prioritize stress as probably the number one major insult that most of us face today. And it's something that could be not only prevented, but also tackled through lifestyle choices and behavioral modification. There are obviously other stressors and risks that we saw emerge post-COVID, including unemployment, which has caused a lot of socioeconomic issues. We are now seeing side effects related to vaccines that are chronic, including effects on the heart, on the brain, on maybe cancer risk. And so there are so many other things that we're seeing now as a result of staying home and enjoying this remote work environment, but at the same time experiencing isolation, and that isolation itself sort of contributes to the overall vicious cycle of stress and disease. And I hope that we will get to a point where we go back to what we defined as normal for thousands of years, which is, the ability to interact with other individuals in a setting of community. Because we know that communities that live a very long time, including those in the blue zones, such as Sardinia and certain areas in Greece and Japan, have a very strong basis of community And so when you isolate someone away from their work community or environment community, you will increase their risk factor for early death, cardiovascular disease, and other issues. So I think sense of community is extremely important, and in this particular context as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll definitely go back to the longevity aspect and the blue zones, because I find that fascinating, and I'd love to get more your perspective on that. But while I was preparing for this episode, what I did is I reached out to some of the, the community members and the audience, and asked them about what are the health challenges they're most concerned about. And I'd love to go through some of those and kind of get your expert point of view on them. Can we do that?
Let's do it.
Cool. So for someone who's, as you mentioned, struggling with really deep stress, anxiety, mental health issues, how can they best manage the situation? Where should they start?
Right. So as a general rule of thumb, everyone needs to prioritize sleep. We spend, most of our lifetime sleeping, and it makes sense to spend this important portion of our lifespan in good quality. So try to seek good quality sleep. So, develop a regular sleep schedule, go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time if possible, sleep in an environment that you feel comfortable in, make sure the room temperature is appropriate. Don't have any stimulants before bedtime, whether it's social media consumption.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, or certain foods or liquids like caffeines or other stimulants. And today there are a lot of wearables and other sleep-related products that can help enhance your sleep quality, including room temperature control, choice of mattress and sensors, wearables like the Oura Ring that can track your sleep quality. And you can also use supplements, including magnesium, L-threonate, and others that could sort of help you go into deeper sleep and improve your sleep quality. I would also then select the second most important thing for everybody, independent of whether these approaches are for combating stress or just general overall health span and longevity focused pillars, is exercise.
Yeah.
And exercise is such a great de-stress program that anyone can enroll in with for free. And you should really regard exercise as a daily routine and a habit similar to eating and walking and sleeping and going to the bathroom. Everyone should have an exercise regimen that they feel comfortable with, and they should apply it on a day-to-day basis. Exercise has been shown to lower stress, improve hormonal balances, enhance immunity, lower overall mortality, and help fight a lot of mental health conditions. And the third is nutrition. A lot of the food we eat is bad food. And improving food quality, getting rid of toxins in your food diet, including plastics like plastic bottles, may help lower inflammation in your body and help with your overall quest to a better lifespan. Having said that, there are many medical conditions that can masquerade as stress, including thyroid disease, diabetes, heart disease, hormonal causes of high blood pressure, some cancers. So we should not discount anxiety, depression, high stress, other sort of signs and symptoms as sort of a life event, a life stressor, and go sleep it off. I think we should take any sign and symptom, especially if it is a new sign and symptom, like a new episode of anxiety or new depression, as a possible sign and symptom of an underlying medical condition. So as a person in the medical community, I would want to make sure that I would exclude some of these medical conditions to make sure that that I focus and treat the individual based on the findings of these conditions, because some of these are potentially reversible. And the last thing you want is for your clients and patients to be living with a potential reversible cause. Again, it goes back to what we said earlier, is that most chronic diseases go unnoticed for many years. So we have to be proactive with screening.
Yeah, being proactive with screening, that is absolutely something that I'm going to take away from this conversation. Okay, I want to move on to the second category that has been mentioned, which is sleep. And you mentioned having a routine, a proper routine. Many are struggling with insomnia and really having a hard time sleeping, or just mentioning, late hours at work and short nights of sleep because of the delivery they need to. So what's the best way to deal with that? Once you had like 3 or 4 hours sleep one night, what's the best way to deal with that the day after?
Right. Well, everyone needs to prioritize sleep, and you need to prioritize good quality sleep for anywhere from 7 to 9 hours.
Mm.
Anything less than that can really jeopardize your performance the next day, including executive skill sets, decision making, and overall health. And we know that consecutive days of poor sleep or limited duration of sleep can have a major impact on risk for cancer and cardiovascular disease, and ultimately, decrease health span and decrease lifespan potentially because of disease and death. So prioritize sleep, get into a sleep routine, stick to the basics, make sure the room temperature is right, make sure that you're sleeping on the right mattress, and then take magnesium as sort of the first go-to product that you could try, anywhere from 400 to 1,000 milligrams a day. There are different formulations of magnesium, but magnesium L-threonate, which readily crosses the blood-brain barrier, can certainly help with calming the body and helping with overall sleep. And so that's probably the best, easiest sort of over-the-counter strategy that I would recommend for someone with poor sleep. There's so many other strategies like we discussed, right? Which is try to avoid any potential stimulants and social media consumption.
Yeah.
And I think after trying going into, the initial program of a healthier sleep, if after then you're unable to fall asleep, go see a sleep doctor, because most of us have sleep disorders that are undiagnosed. Again, going back to this notion that signs and symptoms of any medical condition can go unnoticed for many years, including sleep disorders. And sleep disorders can manifest with insomnia, nighttime anxiety, frequent waking up at night, snoring, and not feeling refreshed, waking up in the morning. So all of these can be potential signs of an underlying sleep disorder that may require specialized therapy, including a CPAP machine for sleep apnea, as an example, or certain medications that require prescription. And so I think what I'm trying to highlight is that try the basic sort of non-invasive methods, use supplements, and then seek medical advice, because a lot of these signs and symptoms can masquerade for a chronic disease that's yet to be defined.
Okay. So taking a nap the day after doesn't make up for a poor quality of sleep or a late night at work.
Well,
consistency is key.
You need to be consistent, right? That's number one. You need to go and to bed at the same time every day, have good sleep hygiene if possible. Now, if you're sleep deficient, you're going to have to make it up somehow, whether you make it up on weekends or the next day, but that will be at the expense of maybe the other tasks that you have during the day. Although interestingly, a recent study showed that daytime sleeping is not suggested, because it will interfere with your overall circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm is this very important and innate sort of rhythm software, if you will, that we've kept throughout evolution, and it really tells us when to wake up and when to go to bed. And it's very unique to the human race. And on an individual level, there are unique circadian signatures as well. So evolutionary, we really were meant to wake up at a certain hour, early morning, and then stay up until night. Likely because of an evolutionary trait, whether it's sure that we're safe and we're keeping our community safe from predators,
Yeah.
or because we needed to achieve productivity throughout the day. So disrupting this innate evolutionary circadian rhythm with daytime siesta,
Yes.
yeah, it may potentially cause harm down the road. Although I'm aware of certain societies sleeping during the afternoon,
Absolutely.
but they may also have very poor productivity and a poor economy, likely as a reflection of that. But all jokes aside, I think what's more important is trying to achieve a normal sleep pattern and a normal circadian rhythm rather than a disrupted sleep pattern and a disrupted circadian rhythm.
Got it. Many people are struggling with their weight and have tried like different diets, keto, cutting carbs, but they keep returning to square one each time and can't really figure out the right approach. What would you recommend for them? Are there any maybe wearables that can help monitor glucose levels or any new ways of dealing with weight issues?
Right. So you need to measure, the body mass index, which is a function of how fat someone is. It's an easy marker that we have to sort of categorize individuals as overweight or obese. It's got its pitfalls as a measurement. The most accurate way of measuring someone's sort of fat content is through a DEXA scan, which is a scan used for measuring the strength of someone's bones for osteoporosis evaluation, but it can also tell you the fat distribution throughout the body and give you a score. Today, in sort of most fitness centers, there's a body composition analysis machine that someone can perform to sort of quantify their fat, protein, muscle, and other parameters. So once you've established that you're either overweight or obese, then you can seek various therapies, starting with the basic, which is, diet. So you need to understand your food behavior, your cravings, your frequency of intake, your caloric intake per day, and then you try to mitigate that by cutting your calories, by ensuring that you eat good quality food, say mostly protein-based, getting rid of complex carbohydrates, including sugar. And then you move to step two, which is, getting into a really good physical and exercise program, focusing on endurance and resistance and building muscle.
Okay.
And the combination of both can be effective if consistent. But we know this is not realistic for most individuals because one, it's expensive to buy good quality food, sadly, today, as opposed to processed food. And that you may need a gym membership and or a personal trainer to achieve those goals. So I'm a fan of medical therapy for weight loss management as sort of a short-term therapy to help an individual achieve their desired weight goals, rather than sort of chronic therapy, which may be associated with chronic side effects. And a lot of uncertainties about these medications. And some of these medications include the newer ones out in the market, they're called GLP-1 receptor agonists, such as Mounjaro and Ozempic.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing today is an inflection point in the history of mankind through these medicines. These medicines are decreasing weight by an average of anywhere from 5 to 20% of someone's weight in as short of a period as 3 months. They're lowering cardiometabolic risks. They're decreasing the risk of prediabetes in someone with obesity. They're protecting the heart, the brain from inflammation and neurodegeneration, including potentially Alzheimer's disease. And this is being studied right now, which will be a game changer for humanity, chronic disease, and so on. They're associated with a lot of other issues, right? They're associated with, about 20% of the weight loss comes from muscle mass loss. Mm-hmm. And so if their objective is to lose fat and maintain and gain muscle, well, these medicines are associated with not only fat loss, but muscle loss in about 20% of the time. Newer studies shows increased risk of suicide and other mental health related issues with these medicines and so on. So I think a combination of either or together between diet, exercise, behavioral therapy, and medications short term to try to achieve those weight loss goals is not something to be discounted. And in my patient population, I combine all those strategies together. I try to avoid putting someone on long-term medical therapy unless they need it for other indications like diabetes. And then seeking guidance because weight gain and obesity is a chronic disease. It's associated with behavioral issues, with food-related issues, with body-related issues. Obesity is associated with other chronic comorbidities, including vision problems, heart problems, kidney problems. So you really have to look at it from a multidisciplinary approach. And that may require going to an obesity specialist or a clinic that specializes in offering you a comprehensive platform for weight loss management. So I think to summarize, weight loss management is not straightforward. It's a very complex disease. You could start with the basics, but if you're very serious about losing a lot of pounds, seek medical advice.
Okay. Very interesting. I want us now to go back, Dr. Fady, to the concept on longevity, So from a science-based perspective, when we talk about longevity, what percentage is determined by genetics and what percentage is influenced by lifestyle and other acquired factors?
Yeah, believe it or not, we determine longevity because 85% of longevity is based on our choices in life, including
85%.
85%. Only 15% of longevity is contributed by the genes we inherit, and we can quantify those genetic variants today through genetic studies to see whether we have the right matching genes that will help us live a longer life and help us have lower risk of chronic disease. But believe it or not, even if we don't have those genes, and if we have bad genes that make us down the road, we can influence the trajectory of our lifespan and longevity through personal choices towards food, exercise, overall behavior, gambling risk, driving with a ceinture instead of racing without and being reckless on the road, avoidance of high risk activities like scuba diving, and so on. And so I think if you combine these, let's call them acquired factors, they are much more powerful than any other factor. And if you add to that more muscle, better, a more proactive health screening, then you're golden. I mean, nothing will stop you from living a longer, healthier life except bad luck. And in the category of bad luck are a few things: accidents, geopolitical instability, wars, and believe it or not, cancer. Cancer is bad luck. It's very hard to predict cancer today for most cases of cancer. Most cancers that are known to mankind don't have the right screening tools like colonoscopy and mammogram and pap smears. Most cancers don't. And so a lot of individuals that develop cancer develop it in later stages because of bad luck. And what contributes to this bad luck, whether it's the toxins in our environment, like the plastics and the fertilizers and the different pollutants, whether it's the genes that we inherit, whether it's the stress, right, that we face on a day-to-day basis. It's a multifactorial phenomena. There are genetic forms of cancers that we inherit from our families, like Angelina Jolie, for example, had the BRCA mutation and did a mastectomy, an elective mastectomy, which is the surgical removal of her breast tissues, because she had a very high risk of developing breast cancer. So that's rare, but most cancers are bad luck and very highly unpredictable until today. So yeah, we could live a longer, healthier life through acquired choices, and we are not engineered to die sooner than later.
That is really fascinating. I had no idea it was that high, 85%. And you mentioned earlier the blue zones, right? It reminds me of a Netflix documentary. I think it's called Secrets of the Blue Zones or something like that. And the author travels the world to find communities where people live long and healthy lives. And as you mentioned, there are some common factors such as the healthy diet, the exercise, the strong social connections, low stress, obviously, and sense of purpose. And we are on Leaders on Purpose podcast, and I love that having a sense of purpose is one of those factors. What are your thoughts on that connection?
Yeah, Peter Diamandis describes it as a massive transformative purpose, which is something that makes you very excited to wake up the next day and work towards, whether it's building a company or being part of a non-for-profit or going to university to learn a new course. But I think that drive to help you achieve a goal that you set for yourself, and it could be multiple goals that you'll set throughout your lifespan, depending on where you are
Yeah,
on that journey. But that goal and that drive and that purpose will sort of configure your brain and your hormones and your various systems in the body to want to achieve it. And that's a driver, and it's a very positive driver for someone's health span and longevity. And so I can give you an example. One of the executives that I help coach wants to look good, feel good, build muscle, eat healthy because he wants to build his company and see it grow over the next 10 years. And he wants to be a very prepared, healthy CEO for all the challenges ahead. And so for him, it is a major responsibility to look good, feel good, and feel healthy, right?
mm-hmm.
To achieve that purpose. And so health, wellness, purpose, future goals are all connected together. And if someone says they don't have a purpose or they don't know what their purpose is, we're all born with purposes, and it may require some soul digging, but it's very important for someone to understand what do they want from life today, and how will that change over their lifespan? Because all of us will have different massive transformative purposes in our lifetime.
Absolutely. I love that. I want to ask you now this question, which is more specific to our context here in Morocco. When we go to a doctor or a general practitioner, they would generally prescribe a complete blood count, blood glucose levels, cholesterol levels, liver and kidney function tests, thyroid function test, vitamin D, we get that here in Morocco, and CRP to monitor inflammation in the body. Of course, this can vary, but it's more or less what we usually get on a yearly basis. Now, what other biomarkers do you think are important to monitor? And what kind of decisions could we take based on that?
Yeah, so this is like the biomarkers you mentioned are throwing a rock in a sea of diagnostics that you could order for someone, depending on which healthcare model you're seeking care in. So in the traditional care model, you have to be you have to be price conscious with what you order, especially if it's a public healthcare model where the
Yeah.
government is for these services. So the biomarkers that you mentioned are sort of basic biomarkers that everyone should get on a yearly basis. But the markers that we send out as part of a proactive, longevity-focused, health span-focused clinical program, which is out-of-pocket pay, expensive, looks at many data points for predictive analytics and early disease detection. We look at over 120 gigabyte of human data.
Wow.
And the blood biomarkers are over 100 versus the 10 you mentioned. We look at full body MRI, we look at thyroid ultrasound, echocardiogram of the heart, DEXA scan, CT scan of the heart for calcium levels. We look at someone's entire genetic footprint, including their whole genome. We look at their biological age, which is their DNA age through a test called the DNA methylation test. We look at their toxins in their hair, urine, and blood to see if they have any of these sort of environmental toxin analyzed from PFAS, microplastics, all the way to fertilizers and other contaminants in our environment, which are major drivers of aging and chronic disease, including cancer. We also conduct a very thorough physiologic assessment, including exercise-related assessments such as VO2 max, muscle strength testing, all the way to body composition analysis and vital signs. And then we take all of this
VO2 max? Can we define VO2 max?
Yeah, so VO2 max is probably one of the most important longevity markers, and it is essentially the maximum amount of oxygen that someone consumes during peak exercise. And that's done through a treadmill-based test in a specialized facility. Although today we're seeing a lot of different tools and technologies being used through remote and Bluetooth-based technology that can be implemented in a lot of businesses, including gyms, to calculate someone's VO2 max. But it's an active test that requires someone to be on a treadmill or a similar device, and it calculates a score. That score is a score you can track over time, and for every 1% improvement in that score, you can improve your lifespan and longevity by X number of days. And so everyone should get their VO2 max tested at least once in their lifetime to understand their baseline, and then repeatedly if they're working towards a certain goal of achieving a better score, which translates to being more fit, and more fit translates to less chronic disease development and sort of healthier health span years. And so we combine all of this as part of a 4 to 8 hours assessment of these 120 gigabyte of data that then gets fed into an AI algorithm and model that does different types of predictions on someone's current state and future risk of developing different conditions, including cancer and cardiovascular disease. So this type of sort of new medicine 3.0, proactive, personalized, preemptive, longevity-focused medicine is gaining traction. It's still in its sort of nascent days. It's expensive. It's not typically covered by private insurance or governments. But we're seeing the emergence of this sort of a newer pathway to better health in developed countries. As an endocrinologist, I would like to expand on the blood work that you mentioned. Even in the traditional healthcare models, I think everyone should get tested for thyroid, diabetes, high cholesterol, inflammatory markers, blood count, calcium at a minimum.
Okay.
And everyone should get their genetic tests done if possible. Today, there are a lot of direct-to-consumer testing companies that offer cost-effective products, including whole genome sequencing, or analyzing your entire 22,000 genes that you've inherited from both families. There are direct-to-consumer whole-body MRI scans, mostly available in North America, such as the States, that are non-expensive, but they're associated with incidental findings, which means that they may come across a finding that will require further testing and into potential complications and so on. So it really depends. If someone wants to explore options outside of the traditional healthcare system, today, with the rise of precision health and private clinics, they can seek that today. And let's define precision health, which we didn't do earlier. But precision health is essentially, gathering data from an individual to create personalized insights about their condition, so you can then give them personalized therapies based on their data. So a data-driven approach to not only healthcare, but we're seeing this in fitness. Gyms are being very creative today in providing personalized fitness and personalized health goals. And so really using data to curate the experience for the individual.
Okay, fascinating. Okay, a couple more questions before we dig into the work you're doing at Healthspan Digital. I'm just wondering, each time I travel to the US or browse through the blogs and profiles that I follow, I'm struck by the business of supplements and peptides and nootropics and powders, industries that aren't really common here in Africa, at least not to the same extent, I would say. Can you share with us, the definition of what these are exactly? And is it something that is proven to expand our health and that we should consider tapping into?
Of course. So the wellness industry is a $5 trillion industry. It's growing at an incredible continuous annual growth rate, and it will reach a $9 trillion industry in about 2027. It is sort of a free market economy, poorly regulated, with a lot of fake claims, and driven by, a lot of celebrities and social media. So under this wellness sector is a thriving business of longevity and supplements. And so there are a lot of companies that claim that their supplements help with anti-aging, longevity, and so on. And I would caution individuals from sort of reading in between the lines and really understanding the contents of a lot of these nutraceutical and products, and studying, any associated studies published to support the claims of these products. We should also be careful in not translating mice-related studies, so preclinical studies, with human-related outcomes. So if a mice does well on a particular supplement, it doesn't mean that humans will respond the same way. We have a completely different biology, and our aging and longevity mechanisms are so complex and yet poorly understood. But we know a few facts about the good supplements. So the most important supplement that everyone should take is creatine monohydrate. And creatine is the building blocks of muscle and provides energy to the brain. Recommended to take 3 to 5 grams a day, higher if you're trying to build muscle. And creatine provides, the fuel needed to build muscle and so on. The second are, the essential micronutrients that we typically get from food. And unless someone has poor nutritional intake, then they should consider taking them, including magnesium, where likely 50% of the population are not optimal with their magnesium intake. The third being protein, on the macronutrient level. So make sure you optimize your protein intake, like 1.2 gram per kg per day. Typically,
but not the powders, right? How about the powders that we usually see in the gyms? Are those good
So
ones?
try to always get good quality food. So good quality whole food for your micro and macronutrient daily requirements. If you're unable to attain these daily required doses, then you can supplement them with the powders. So we get creatine from meat, and if you don't eat sufficient meat, then like if you're plant-based, for example, then you need to supplement your creatine from creatine powders. Same with protein. Half of my protein intake is from protein powder. As I work out in the gym. So I do 1 scoop of protein of whey and casein a day, which is 40 grams. And then the other sort of remaining 60 to 80 grams come from, my animal-based food. I supplement with magnesium, and I don't use anything else, because unless I'm a mouse, nothing has been shown in humans to really prolong longevity and improve health span other than sticking to the basics, which is sleep, exercise, building muscle, sense of community, purpose, and avoidance of toxins as much as possible. Everything else may work for the individual, and let's not discount the power of placebo.
Yes.
The power of placebo is doing something or taking something that's associated with a positive effect. And conversely, the power of nocebo, which is taking something or doing something that's associated with a negative effect. And so you can give magnesium to two different individuals. One individual will develop a headache, the other individual will develop, extra power. And so the magnesium had a positive effect, a positive placebo effect on the person that developed more power, and then had a nocebo effect, a negative effect on the person that developed a headache. And so so that's, I think, the overall general wellness market. We love the wellness market because it provides consumers with access to products and services. A lot of these products provide convenience to the consumers, right? From technology to supplements to beauty clinics and wellness clinics and gyms and so on. But we have to be very careful because it's not a very well-regulated industry. Conversely, from the pharmaceutical side, so the medical grade side, again, there's no supplement that's promised by the pharmaceutical industry today that can prolong someone's life. Period.
Okay, very interesting. And what are the three things that we can do to reduce inflammation and toxins in our daily life, and that would really make us feel better, actually?
Right, sleep.
Yeah.
So sleep helps get rid of toxins in the brain and sort of detoxify the body. My best advice is to get rid of plastic. And so if there were three things to sort of give people attention to that's very easy to incorporate is better sleep, get rid of plastic bottles of water. Every plastic bottle contains over 300,000 micro nanoparticles of plastic.
Wow. That is challenging, though, when you have kids and they're in young age and you need to send them school with their bottle of water. Like, I really don't see any other way of
use glass. Yeah, use glass or use a water container that's safe and that's been tested.
Okay.
Yeah, so no plastics. And then three, good quality food. So avoid food that are exposed to fertilizers, avoid food in plastic containers, wash your food thoroughly. I'll give you an example. I had a client that had very high arsenic levels on blood toxin analysis. And he changed his diet away from chicken, and his arsenic levels improved. So a lot of our animal-based products today come with a heavy toxin load. And by toxins, I mean, arsenic and mercury and so many of the heavy metal stuff, but also the many chemicals that are sort of these forever chemicals in our environment.
Okay, so water, sleep, plastic, and food.
Yep.
Got it. All right. So let's now shift a bit our focus to the entrepreneurial and business aspect. You have a unique position at the intersection of health and technology, with deep expertise in both the medical field and investment. I am really passionate about innovation and believe we are on the brink of witnessing some remarkable breakthroughs. Can you tell us more about your company, Healthspan Digital, and how it really aims to make an impact on the health tech space?
Sure, yeah, thank you. So Healthspan Digital is a longevity technology company. We build AI-powered software and consumer products to help bridge technology and healthcare services with consumers from the comfort of their homes. So our current product is a smart mirror that anyone can have in their home, whether it's mounted on a wall or one of these beauty mirrors that you put on a table. And it has the softwares needed to conduct a body analysis for vital sign acquisition, gives you the ability to speak to doctors on demand, and create personalized insights based on your daily behaviors and biometric data analysis. And so products like these get us very excited because we see a future where we can empower consumers with smart technology from the comfort of their home and connect them with out-of-home services so we can help them better with their wellness and health span journey. So we're incorporated in Abu Dhabi. We've got operations in Toronto and Dubai. And we also help longevity clinics with software. So we work with 3 clinics, one in Dubai, the other in Athens, and the other in Toronto. These are affiliate clinics where we send our clients to for comprehensive longevity evaluations that we discussed earlier, using a lot of the innovative tools that we bring to market. I was in the traditional medical space for a long time. I was an endocrinologist and geneticist at the NIH in Bethesda, and post-COVID decided to pursue the entrepreneurship journey so I could help influence and scale healthcare services to a larger audience through technology. Hence why we started Healthspan Digital.
Wow, that is fascinating. So a smart mirror, how would that work? Like I would wake up in the morning, look at myself in the mirror, and it would give me insights on how well I slept. How would it work exactly?
Yeah, so the smart mirror is an Android operating system. It has a high definition camera that could analyze many areas of your face for facial analysis, vital signs, cardiac arrhythmia scores, stroke risk. And it will then talk to you through a very smart cognitive AI algorithm if it detects anything abnormal to help guide you in the right direction. The Android system can also connect with your wearable data through Bluetooth to understand your patterns and biometrics and behaviors, and then come up with personalized insights based on the algorithm. So you can customize your daily routines and receive recommendations based on your data. It will also help connect you to outside services without you needing to leave the home
Wow.
for a lot of the healthcare related services, including phlebotomy at home, blood work, and doctor.
Wow, that is amazing. Now, I understand that the data is key in this business, obviously. What efforts are being made to gather data from diverse populations across different continents? Like, since there will be AI-driven recommendations, it is crucial that they are adapted to reflect the unique health needs, I would say, of different regions and demographics. What can you say about that?
Yeah, so far, a lot of the AI algorithms are trained on non-generalizable populations, including Caucasian populations living in North America. So we do need to standardize data and more importantly, have representative data from different geographies. And I think we're at an exciting time right now because a lot of these open AI platforms are readily accessible by anyone that wants to build an app. And so they can build a product that resonates best with their local community today. And it's very exciting because for the first time in history today, we can really customize algorithms based on local data sets.
It is exciting indeed. So in 5 to 10 years, Dr. Fady, how do you envision people managing their health and well-being?
Yeah, well, we're going to have a lot of AI agents, so representatives of us in our pockets. And we're going to have avatars that will be sort of our digital replicas that will go to meetings on our behalf, that will know our data better, that will analyze all of our data to create personalized recommendations. And so we're going to live in a fully digital world, even from sort of a smart home perspective. Our future homes are going to collect a lot of data from us to create personalized insights from your urine that's being dumped into the toilet that will get analyzed in real time by the smart technology there, all the way to your body being frequently scanned by various sensors and cameras in your home to try to detect any subtle changes in your body that may call for attention. And so we're seeing this movement of the longevity and wellness real estate providing a lot of exciting technologies for future consumers. There are questions about privacy and reliability and reproducibility and accuracy of these data. But I can only imagine that in a few years, we're going to have powerful technology that's going to, more importantly, help put us in the right direction, independent of where this technology can, do, on a negative note. But I'm optimistic, and I think that we're at an inflection point with AI, and that AI is going to add so much value to our overall health span.
It is absolutely fascinating and exciting. And at the same time, some people worry that, instead of trusting ourselves and creating the stillness that is necessary to tune in into our own feelings, it's like we're always looking for answers outside of us and relying more and more on technology to tell us how we feel. What would you say to those who are really concerned that technology might be disconnecting us from our inner wisdom?
Yeah, let's take advantage of technology. Let's use technology to help us find answers about, wisdom, purpose, health, various insights. Technology is scary. Technology is evolving at a much more rapid pace than human sort of evolution, than the brain's evolution. And so we need to always develop skill sets that will sort of compete with technology and will set us apart as humans. AI is not going to replace us. Machines or robots are not going to replace us anytime soon. And as long as we have great governance over these technologies by various government entities, I think humans will prevail.
Amazing. Dr. Fady, there is so much more we could talk about. I have learned so much from this conversation. We usually end each episode of Leaders on Purpose podcast with 3 quick questions to kind of end on an inspiring note. So, what is the best piece of advice you have ever been given?
Don't stop. Just keep going. And if you fail, just move on.
Keep going. Amazing. Now, what is the worst piece of advice you have ever been given?
You're going to fail. Like, okay, I'll fail, but I'll get up and go.
Now, if you had the power to decide on one rule, one law, or one principle that absolutely everyone must follow, what would that be?
Honesty.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that comes to mind. I mean, if you ask me tomorrow, I'll probably say something else, but I think honesty is very important.
Completely agree. And I think it's a perfect way to end this episode. Dr. Fady, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate your expertise. I'll put some links on the show notes for you all to learn more about Healthspan Digital and the remarkable work that Dr. Fady and his team are doing. Any final thought you would like to leave us with?
Thanks so much. I really enjoyed this, and thanks for giving me a platform to share some of these important concepts. I think it's important to stick to the basics, right? Yeah. And to understand that life, just like disease, is a journey from a wellness to a disease state. Chronic diseases don't happen overnight. So you really have to be proactive with trying to find out where you are on that journey. And so you have to be the CEO of your health, right? You have to take that proactive approach and seek, a data-driven care approach, evaluation as soon as you can, because the body is incredible at hiding disease, and you don't want to be hiding the wrong one.
Be the CEO of your health. Dr. Fady Hannah-Shmouni, thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.